A group of young people enter a secret room buried for hundreds of years by a dark history. They just want to find the truth and see the hidden room, but unfortunately their journey will not be easy because they face something terrible. At the beginning of the film, there is a young woman named Scarlett. She went to Iran just to find out and see locations that are indeed forbidden by the government. By going to that country, she is already in danger, especially if she is caught. Scarlett has made an appointment with a man named Reza. He is a friend of Scarlett's late father, who also likes things that smell of archaeology. Scarlett is taken into a secret passage in his house. But they must be careful and must not be caught by the army. The tunnel is connected to an ancient site with an inscription carved on a large stone. It turns out that the stone is the entrance to an ancient discovery thousands of years ago. Scarlett finds a black bull's head statue with some writing underneath. With her expertise, she can read the writing and discover a long-buried mystery. Unfortunately, Scarlett can't stay there long. She had to rush out because the location would be bombed by the local government. Scarlett tried hard to get out, but in the end she succeeded. Reza said that Scarlett was like her father, brave and reckless. Unfortunately, Scarlett's father was less fortunate. Scarlett really likes things that smell of ancient discoveries and archaeology. After getting that information, she is now in Paris with her friend named Benji. Benji will record and document Scarlett's journey in searching for the truth that has been buried for hundreds or even thousands of years. Scarlett is sure that ancient ruins are still around them. She even has notes made by her father as a clue. This time she is interested in the discovery of a man named Nicholas Flamel who had made a stir in the world, about the philosopher's stone that can make eternal life. Unfortunately, until now the stone is believed to be still stored in ancient ruins in Paris. A writing belonging to Nicholas Flamel is neatly stored in the museum. Unfortunately, the writing cannot be translated by Scarlett because it is in Aramaic. But Scarlett knows who can translate it. They broke into the church with Scarlett's trick. Of course, this is a violation, but to get something sometimes we have to be reckless and break down even locked doors. They went to the church attic and met a man named George. George has been Scarlett's friend since they were in college. They also explored the ruins of ancient pyramids in Egypt together. But George is more skilled at translating foreign languages than Scarlett, including Aramaic. George didn't want to obey Scarlett's wishes because he knew that Scarlett would definitely do something reckless again. George didn't actually live in the church attic. He was only told to fix the broken church bell, until finally he managed to ring the church bell that had been asleep for decades. And finally George was also willing to help Scarlett, but he only wanted to translate the writing and not join Scarlett's adventure. The stone was translated well by George, but they haven't gotten an answer yet. Scarlett didn't run out of ideas. She turned the stone over and made a kind of trick to reveal a writing hidden behind it. After successfully opening and translating, they came to a temporary conclusion that the philosopher's stone was in Paris and buried underground, along with the catacombs. To find out, they joined a tour officially held by the government. However, the tour was limited to human graves that occurred in the 1700s. From the writing on the stone, the door to enter deeper should be around there, but it turned out there wasn't. However, suddenly a young man told Scarlett and her friends that they had to look for someone named Papillon. He could be found in a nightclub. That night, Scarlett immediately looked for Papillon. When he entered, Benji saw a woman who kept staring at him. It was quite strange, but Benji didn't care. Scarlett finally managed to find Papillon, and they persuaded him to show the entrance to the catacombs written on the Nicholas Flamel stone. At first he didn't want to, but when Scarlett talked about the treasure, Papillon agreed. The next day they got ready. Papillon invited two of his friends, Zed and Sue. The necessary equipment was ready and they were about to leave for the entrance. The entrance turned out to be on a long unused railway line. The entrance turned out to be quite small, so they had to enter one by one. When they were about to enter, George refused to go with them. According to the agreement with Scarlett, that he would only help translate the writing on the Musimu stone. But Scarlett kept asking him to come along. Not long after, a police officer saw their presence and tried to arrest them. Luckily, Scarlett and the others managed to get in and leave the police. Because of that incident, George became even more annoyed with Scarlett, and he had no other choice but to follow them rather than go to jail. Papillon guided them through the right path. He was sure he had memorized every path before. He had been there with his friend before, but his friend disappeared and was never found. It seemed they were not alone in there. There were several people who were members of a strange sect performing rituals. Their gazes were sharp, Even one of them was staring at Benji. They arrived at the end of the road. They had to go through a narrow path with many human bones. But Scarlet saw another way. According to her, that way was the right and quickest to reach their destination. But in the end, they followed Papillon's directions. One by one they began to enter, and the most difficult was Benji. He was trapped and panicked. Luckily, he was able to escape. But once out of that path, they seemed to be back where they were. They began to blame Papillon and then tried to break through the path pointed by Scarlet. Since then, they began to experience strange events. They heard the sound of a telephone ringing. The sound continued to ring. Then they found an old piano. The piano was similar to George's. He still remembered that his piano had a key that didn't work. And the location of the broken key was the same as the piano. What happened here? The phone kept ringing until Scarlet dared to pick up the phone, and then someone spoke to her in a rather scary tone. Not long after, a man appeared from the darkness. It turned out to be Papillon's friend who had disappeared. His name was La Taupe. At that time they didn't find another way, but La Taupe led them to a fairly deep hole. He said the hole would take them out of this catacombs. Benji was injured because suddenly the rope came off. Luckily it wasn't serious. The deeper they went in, the more obstacles they faced, especially the problem of getting out. Some of them had ancient pictures and writings, but Scarlet could still read them. They found a room where there was a body of someone who was still preserved. Even though it seemed the body was estimated to be thousands of years old. They again found another path that led to the main goal, the Philosopher's Stone. There were even many treasures there. When Scarlet and George tried to take the Philosopher's Stone, Papillon and the others were busy trying to take the treasure, but unfortunately, it was just a trap. The rocks collapsed on their heads. La Taupe disappeared while Sue was badly injured in his hand. But miraculously, the wound could be healed instantly by the ancient stone. It turns out the legend is true. They have to find a way out, and again, Scarlet can find it. There are many puzzles and traps in the catacombs, so they have to be careful. They arrive in a room and meet La Taupe with strange behavior. Then she attacks Sue to death. The Philosopher's Stone cannot heal the dead. Then La Taupe disappears again. The journey to find a way out continues. This time Benji becomes the victim. He saw a woman walking behind him, until finally he was attacked and fell and died. Not long after, they heard a scream from a hallway. There they saw a burning car with a man trapped inside. The man turned out to be Papillon's friend because of an accident. Papillon did not believe it, then he seemed to be pulled until finally Papillon died. Now only Scarlet, George, and Zed are left. The three of them try to find out what really happened. As they continue their journey, they are confronted by a terrifying figure in black. They are terrorized and panic occurs again. Even the stone statues there suddenly come to life and pounce on George. He will die if not treated immediately. George said something to Scarlet about the Philosopher's Stone. Scarlet had to return the Philosopher's Stone to its original place if she wanted this terror to stop. Scarlet went back there alone and returned the stone. Scarlet returned to George and put her hand on his wound, and a miracle happened. George was healed, and they continued their journey to get out of there. A big hole was in front of them. At first, George and Zed were not sure. But Scarlet convinced them, and they jumped together. At the bottom of the hole, they found another hole, but that was their way out. They managed to get out and couldn't believe that they were safe. That day might have been a tiring day, but Scarlet didn't seem to stop looking for new challenges.